With the tax bill that he has been dreaming about for years, now in danger tonight in the United States Senate, House Speaker Paul Ryan let it be known today that he is quitting. He's not going to quit like the last Republican Speaker of the House did. John Boehner just quit right in the middle of a session of Congress, just bolted, just ran away from the job more than a year before the next congressional election. Politico reported today that Paul Ryan plans to not run for re-election. Politico said Ryan has made it known to some of his closest confidants that this will be his final term as Speaker. He would like to serve through Election Day 2018 and retire ahead of the next Congress. This report quickly became a problem for Paul Ryan today because he is asking Republican members of the House to walk the plank and vote for the most unpopular tax legislation in history. And now they know that Paul Ryan himself is not willing to face voters in his home district after he does that. Here's Paul Ryan today trying to sound like he was denying the Politico report, but he was asked the wrong question.
Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. I'm not editing.
He was asked if he was quitting anytime soon. And no, he's not quitting anytime soon. He's quitting a year from now. The correct question to ask Paul Ryan is, are you committed to running for re-election in next year's congressional election? Politico says he's not going to run. Politico says he has told people he's not going to run. Paul Ryan is facing a real challenge from Democrats in the re-election campaign that he has apparently decided not to run in. And that is exactly the right choice for Paul Ryan to make, because Paul Ryan still wants to be president. He can't risk losing his re-election to a House seat when he still wants to be president. Paul Ryan had his season on the presidential stage campaigning as the Republican vice presidential candidate with Mitt Romney at the top of the ticket. And in politics, there is nothing more addicting than the presidential dream. The presidential dream never dies in politicians like Paul Ryan. It has to be beaten out of them. And I mean literally beaten out of them. They have to run for president and get beaten. That's the only way the presidential dream dies. Paul Ryan is surely looking at running for president in 2024 when he will be 54 years old and the age of Trump will be over. Paul Ryan doesn't want to live with the blame for the loss of seats in the Republican House in the next election and possibly even the loss of the majority to the Democrats in the House. He doesn't want to deal with a couple of more years of the Trump presidency with even fewer Republican House members. He is surely calculating that if he leaves at the end of next year and goes on the lecture circuit for the kind of big money that can cover his young kids' college tuitions, and he begins his return to campaigning 6 years from now, the stink of Trumpism will be off of Paul Ryan. He will, once out of office, no doubt, become ever more critical of Donald Trump. Paul Ryan wants to be able to claim that he did something before he leaves the House, and cutting taxes is now the only thing that he knows how to do or thinks he knows how to do. And he knows that 6 years from now, the exploding deficits won't be blamed on him. And if he's really lucky, a Democrat will be elected president in 2020, and that Democratic president will raise taxes in a responsible manner, as Democrats have done before, and then Paul Ryan can run against the tax-raising Democrat for president. In the meantime, Paul Ryan's command of his troops just loosened today. The California Republicans in the House of Representatives who are voting against their state's interests on this tax bill have less reason to do that tonight now that they know Paul Ryan isn't going to pay the price for that vote. Marco Rubio is 2 years younger than Paul Ryan, and he's going to run for president again, which is why Marco Rubio is positioning himself tonight as the champion of the kids, the champion of children, saying he will vote no on the tax bill unless they increase the child tax credit. That is what Republicans used to call compassionate conservatism. Marco Rubio was just elected to a 6-year term in the Senate, and if he wants to, he can challenge Donald Trump in a Republican presidential primaries in 2020 if Trump is weak enough. And even if Marco Rubio loses, he can still go back to his job in the Senate. And maybe in 2020, Republican voters will have learned the lesson about Donald Trump. Maybe they'll learn it that soon. The lesson that Marco Rubio tried to teach them.
He's a con man. I think it's time to unmask him for what he is.
I will not allow the conservative movement to be taken over by a con artist by the name of Donald Trump.
So you all have friends that are thinking about voting for Donald Trump. Friends, do not let friends vote for con artists.
Marco Rubio is perfectly positioned to jump into a Republican primary against Donald Trump, or be patient, wait another 4 years. That's what you're watching tonight. Presidential dreams in the House and in the Senate. And when you're a member of Congress and you have presidential dreams, every vote counts. Every vote you cast in Congress counts. And so tonight, Marco Rubio is the last man standing in the Senate in opposition to the tax bill, and he's doing it for the kids. He says he's doing it for families with kids who are struggling to make ends meet and need more money from the child tax credit. It could just be a stunt. Marco Rubio might know right now tonight that he's ready to cave to the special interests who fund his campaigns and who contribute to Republican presidential campaigns if they just make him one of those public promises of working on improving the child tax credit next year. If Marco Rubio accepts something like that, then you know this was all just a stunt. But if he doesn't, the bill could die, because Republican Senator Bob Corker has already said he's voting no. If Marco Rubio votes no and John McCain doesn't vote because he remains in the hospital where he is tonight, undergoing cancer treatment, then the bill will be defeated in the Senate. Here's what Marco Rubio said today.
Consistently throughout this process, I've outlined the need to increase the refundable part of the child tax credit. And so what I have said consistently, privately, although I guess now it's in the press, is that unless they figure out a way to increase the refundable part higher than $1,100, the way they figured out a way to give corporations an extra year of cuts, the way they figured out a way to lower the top rate for someone making, a family making $1 million, unless they can figure out a way to add to the 1,100 figure, I won't support the bill.